Hey everyone, Robert here, author of Expansion Mastery, the practical guide to living a fully engaged life. Are you ready to start living your life to the fullest? Are you ready and willing to connect to your higher self and to live fully engaged? Then welcome, my friends, to the Fully Engaged Life. Welcome back to the show, everyone. Today we're going to take a look at the concept of cultivation. And I'm going to do this for two reasons. One, because my beautiful wife suggested that I cover this topic. And two, because I was told by editors and others when writing my book to be careful not to use words like cultivation because people have a hard time relating to it, or they think it's dealing with something new age and occult or just basically obscure. But this is not the case. So before I get into the heart of the matter, let's take a look at this word cultivation. Because having the ability to cultivate ourselves, our life, is necessary for attaining the ability to live a fully engaged life. If we look at it in terms of simple definition, oftentimes it's referring to something like a farmer cultivating crops. So what does it mean to cultivate the crops? Well, it means that they're putting in conscious effort. They're actually doing something to get a result, to yield something. And they plant the seeds, they water it, they care for it, they feed it, they make sure that insects don't destroy it. All of that care and purposefulness goes into cultivating a crop. Now, this can also refer to someone who is engaged in the process of attaining or developing particular qualities or skills, or even refining current skills. I like to look at it like this. Cultivation is engaging in an act mindfully and purposefully in order to develop and attain a quality, skill, or experience. And as you can see, there's really nothing obscure about that, and there's really nothing mystical about it either. I think where some of the confusion comes in is a lot of the fake spirituality out there has really used and abused this word. And also, the internal Chinese martial arts use this sort of idea of cultivating their inner landscape, cultivating qi. And because there are still so many people that decide they don't want to believe in any such thing, they even negate the entire idea of cultivation altogether. However, cultivation is absolutely necessary and essential in order for us to attain awakening, our spiritual expansion, and of course, to live a fully engaged life. So that just leaves us with a question: what are you cultivating? And how exactly does that fit in with living a fully engaged life? So let's look at this in terms of a comparison to manifestation and cultivation. When we are manifesting, the law of attraction, secret type stuff, we are manifesting our reality every moment of every day. Whether that's consciously or unconsciously, it's still taking place. And this is happening from our thoughts, our emotions, and our vibration. There is really no time in which you are not manifesting something into your reality. Because every time you have a thought, every time you have an emotion, it is attracting something similar to you. And even if we go into a state of no mind, we still have vibrational frequency, and we are always ultimately attracting to us that which is a vibrational match to the frequency we are in. So the idea with manifestation is to make manifestation conscious. We are no longer unconscious of what we're manifesting into our life. We are consciously doing so. And by doing so, we have to accept 100% responsibility for our life. So the idea with manifestation is this always taking place no matter what. But is this the same with cultivation? No. I know plenty of people, even family and friends, who aren't engaged in any sort of cultivation in their life at all. All they do is exist. They go, they work, they get their paycheck, they come home, they sit and veg out, either playing video games or watching something on television. That's not cultivating anything. They're just existing. They're just wasting their time and wasting their life. And most of this happens because they have no idea what they enjoy doing anymore. They've lost that. They have no passion for anything. They have no purpose in their life. Most don't even realize that they have lost that, and those who do have no idea how to reconnect to it. And that's part of what I've been trying to teach over the years, is to help people to regain that, to find their sense of purpose, to find passion in life, and to start engaging their life. You have to engage life before you can become fully engaged in it. So unlike manifestation, there are people who aren't engaged in cultivating really anything in their life. Of course, there are those who are involved in doing things, but those things don't really have any substantial value. It isn't that you are cultivating it, it's just something you're doing to pass the time. Again, a form of entertainment. And that really does not constitute cultivation. So allow me to share some examples with you of what it is to cultivate and how that cultivation takes place. Because for anyone living a fully engaged life, you're cultivating things all the time. You've got multiple things that you're cultivating because that's what it is to live life. Cultivation could be viewed as kind of the effort to achieve and attain the things you want to become or experience in life. So one of the things my wife and I are very actively engaged in cultivating is our personal library. Why a library? Well, because we're passionate about books. We fully understand that knowledge is power, and it always has been. But even more important than knowledge is the ability to learn, because it is through learning that you grow and expand. So we don't clutter our library with a bunch of fiction. We have nonfiction. We have all the topics that we actually engage in. Japanese martial arts, Chinese healing, spiritual texts from literally hundreds and hundreds of spiritual systems throughout the entire world. Every time we go to another country, we visit their bookstores and make some purchases. And these books don't just sit on our shelves. We engage in reading all of these books on a regular basis because we enjoy learning and growing and expanding. A lot of our books are on language as well. Why? Because this is another thing we're cultivating, is our ability to understand, speak, and read more than one language. Right now, we are actively engaged in learning Japanese and Castilian Spanish. And we are also dabbling in Zonka, Mandarin, French, and Italian. So what exactly is it we do to cultivate this library? Well, first, we have a passion for it. We fully realize the importance of keeping a healthy mind through constant growth, and reading allows us to do that. Sometimes we even read a book together and we'll go through so many passages and we'll stop, and then we will contemplate and discuss what is going on in that book. And so the cultivation part is how we engage it. First, in terms of actually purchasing the books, right? That's the easy part. But first, we had to know what we were passionate about, know what we wanted to learn, and then from there, we're able to purchase those things that we are most interested in. And we keep our library in pristine condition. And in addition to constantly adding to the library, we're always engaged in a book. We usually always have books with us no matter where we go, what we're doing, and we're always reading and accessing information from these various books. And we don't just read, we take notes on these things and then we actively engage in them. So if there's a spiritual practice that's spelled out in a book, then we actually do it. So you see, if we look at cultivation as making the effort, we make the effort to have a library. We first decided that we had that passion, both of us, and we wanted to have that. Then we make the effort to actually make the money so we can purchase the books. And then we seek out bookstores wherever we are so that we can purchase the books. We make the effort to keep all of our books in great condition. And we also make the effort to make sure we are reading, studying, engaging, and learning with the material from all of the books. So cultivating a great library with information that is very valuable to us is just one of the forms of effort we make in order to live a fully engaged life. In the past, books were always sort of a status symbol. It showed that you were educated and you were well off if you had a couple dozen books, in your home. That was considered quite an accomplishment. And it's very interesting because back then, a lot of times, there were so many people that didn't have the ability to read, and those who did were most fortunate. And books were not as easy to come by. Now, they're incredibly easy to come by. Most everybody can read, and yet no one is engaging in reading books much anymore. And I feel this is somewhat responsible for the deterioration of the human mind that we see taking place today. What else do you cultivate? Well, externally, such as the library, we can look at all kinds of things. What things do you desire to experience in life? My wife and I cultivate a library. We cultivate martial arts skills. We cultivate healing skills. We cultivate learning languages. We cultivate stepping out of our comfort zone and enjoying life. We cultivate the ability to live life to the fullest, creating the life we both desire. We cultivate a healthy, happy, loving relationship. And what I've found is when you're with the right person, cultivating this loving relationship has nothing to do with compromise and sacrifice. Cultivation is not something difficult. The effort that I make, that we both make for our relationship, is enjoyable. We want to do it. We love to do things for one another, and we love to enjoy our relationship together. And we do things, make the effort, cultivate things that will allow us to take our relationship to all new levels. And I think this is one of the things that is severely missing in most relationships today, because people feel as though they're having to compromise and sacrifice all the time. And when you're doing that, you're not really in a place where you desire to cultivate anything from it because you feel something's constantly being taken away. And this is letting you know that you might want to look at your current relationship and determine whether it's the right one or not. Because if you are with that one special person, the right person, cultivating your relationship is one of the most enjoyable things you can do in life. In my opinion, there is nothing more important in life than cultivating your relationship. And remember, cultivation, the effort here, does not mean that it's difficult. It does not mean that it's hard. It does not mean that you have to work at it. These are very common misconceptions. So I'll share a simple example with you. During the week, the car needs refueling, right? So I get up with my wife at 6 a.m. every day anyway, but when the car needs to be refueled, I get up and I get dressed and I run to the gas station in the morning and I fill the car while she's getting ready to work, just to save her a little bit of time and hassle. And because I want to do that for her. See, it's never like a pain in the butt for me to do that. It's never a task. It's never a chore. I want to do that for her. And I know she appreciates that because that's one less thing she has to mess with. And it allows her a little extra time to get around so she can get ready for work more leisurely. My work hours are generally far more flexible. So this is just one example of the kind of things we do for one another on a regular basis. But we are constantly doing things like this for one another. Not because we need to work at anything, not because it's part of the sacrifice or compromise. It's because it comes from the heart. We genuinely want to do things to make the other happier, to make their life better, and to express to each other just how much we love each other. So, are you cultivating your romantic relationship? What are you cultivating in your life? What are you cultivating in your experience? Are you cultivating things of value, or are you simply wasting time? Now, let's turn this inward and look at cultivation in terms of spirituality, because this is where it's very commonly used. First, we have to cultivate mindfulness. Mindfulness is not something you learn from a single practice. It's not attained in an hour. It's not something that you manage to read a book on and then know it or have the ability. It takes cultivating. So first, we can listen to a teacher and read some books on the subject, but we have to actually engage in the practices as well. And as you read more and study more and practice even more, that's how you cultivate the ability to attain the state of mindfulness. And this is done over years, and it's something you continue to do. Can you ever really become too mindful? I don't think so, no. So it's this state that we are constantly cultivating. And in so doing, we become more and more aware, and we bring our consciousness, our higher self, to the forefront of the mind and begin to experience life through it instead of the left brain stories of the ego. And then, of course, there is meditation, right? So this is the idea is in spirituality. Spirituality is all about cultivation. You are constantly cultivating your mind and your body and your spirit. When we look at meditation itself, look at the stages that I shared with you in a previous episode. All of those stages are a form of cultivation. As you make the effort to engage each stage, you engage the practice, and as you are engaging the practice, you are in the act of cultivation. So within each one of those stages, you can see how you are cultivating your ability to truly meditate. So here's an interesting way to look at this through the idea of meditation. When I was going through the stages, I was explaining how we forget and how we become distracted. And it is through the cultivation of meditation that we overcome those things. And to go even deeper, let's look at forgetfulness, because this is one of the most common things that happens in meditation. As we are seated and we're meditating and we're doing our best to allow the mind to settle and become still and silent, all of a sudden we start thinking again. And it may take us a little while before we realize that we are engaged in thinking again. Why? Because we become attached to that thought stream. It grabs our attention and everything goes into that thought stream and we get caught up in it. And our mind is so used to doing that we don't even realize it. We don't even realize that we had forgotten that we were meditating, and now we are being distracted by all of this thought. Why? Because of attachment. See, when we get caught up in the thought stream and it pulls all of our attention to it, that is a form of attachment. We are attached to the thought itself. We are attached to any emotional charge that it carries. We are attached to all of that. So we're even attempting to cultivate a sense of non-attachment so that in later stages, when the mind tends to forget and it starts to bring a thought stream into our mind, we're not attached to that thought stream. So we can recognize that, oh, there's a thought coming up. Nope, I can shut it back down because I have no attachment to it anymore. But we have to cultivate the ability of non-attachment so we can free ourselves from that. So through the act of engaging the activity or the process or the experience in a very mindful and purposeful way, we embrace the act of cultivation. And in spirituality, I would go so far as to say there is no spiritual expansion without your ability to cultivate. Even with this breathing mastery program that I've put together, you engage practices to work with the breath in various ways. Each one of these practices is meant to serve as a different form of cultivation in your ability to master and transform the breathing process into something incredibly conscious and beneficial to your overall health and well-being. To truly cultivate, one cannot dabble. One cannot engage in the practices here or there, for a few minutes here, a few minutes there. A cultivation requires consistent effort. Engaging in meditation 3 minutes a day would not constitute as cultivation. Take a good look at yourself and take a good look at your life. What is your purpose? What is your passion? What are you cultivating? Are you cultivating anything? Are you actively engaging in something that offers you improvement, offers some sort of benefit to your life? Or are you just kind of existing and spinning your tires? Cultivation is in itself a spiritual act. If we understand cultivation as a type of effort, and we look in Buddhism at the Noble Eightfold Path, we see that out of those 8, one is referred to as right effort. Right can also mean skillful, wholesome, or perfect. Then if we look at the other 7, we can see that they are about right or skillful thought, word, action, concentration, meditation, and so on. We can see that all of these require cultivation. So once again, we find ourselves with a question: what are we cultivating? And if we look at this, coming full circle back to the definition regarding farmers and their crops, what do you have growing in your life? How are you growing? What are you cultivating? How are you cultivating it? When it comes to living a fully engaged life, we must attain a state of mindfulness so that we are constantly aware of consciously manifesting and what we are consciously manifesting into our life, as well as being aware of what we are constantly cultivating within ourselves and what we are cultivating in our life. Because if we look at the things that we cultivate and the things that we manifest, we have the very building blocks of our lives. So if we finish by expanding on this analogy of the farmer and their crops, let's say you want to engage in a specific spiritual practice in order to attain a certain degree of skill, such as the state of mindfulness. If we don't cultivate that correctly, if we don't cultivate that state of mind, that mental skill correctly, if we don't cultivate it well, then it won't happen. It's the same if a farmer were to just toss some seeds around and then see what happens. Most likely, not much is going to happen, right? But if that farmer very carefully goes through and tills the soil and correctly plants the seeds and keeps the seeds watered and keeps infestation from affecting them and so on, then that effort is cultivation. That effort is ensuring that they attain the desired outcome, which is a healthy, bountiful crop. So with anything that we desire to attain, we have to carefully cultivate it to make sure that we get the outcome we seek. So generally, when I teach things like this to students and clients, I first have them decide what crops they would like to grow. In other words, what are you looking to attain? Do you want to learn martial arts? Do you want to learn spiritual practices? Are you looking specifically to develop mindfulness? Are you looking to specifically and correctly engage in authentic meditation? Or are you looking for various meditative practices? What do you desire to attain? Once you are clear on that, then we map out a clear path of cultivation. How are you going to cultivate it? How are you going to bring it about in a healthy, effective, efficient manner? From there, all of the responsibility shifts onto the person engaging in the practice or study, because they must remain ever vigilant in their cultivation. They must be constantly aware as to whether they are cultivating or neglecting. You have to remain ever mindful as to how you are cultivating and making sure that you continue to cultivate. Otherwise, you surely cannot expect results. So you first have to ask yourself, what do you desire to cultivate? And then ask yourself, how can I best cultivate this? And then you have to engage in the actual act of cultivating, and that has to transpire every single day in order to be successful and attain the results you desire. I would encourage all of you to try a little experiment. Each day, do your best to remain mindful, consciously aware of what you are manifesting and what and how you are cultivating. Do this for 7 days, for 1 week, and see if you forget to do that within those 7 days. Doesn't sound too difficult, does it? You might be surprised. And if you can do it for that 7 days, start to understand then how important it is to hold a sense of awareness, which is attained through the development and cultivation of mindfulness, for your ability to remain ever present and aware of what you are manifesting, as well as what and how you are cultivating. Through this, you will understand one more level of what it is to live a fully engaged life. Please make sure to stop by www.expansionmastery.com. Check it out. Grab your autographed copy of my book, Expansion Mastery, as well as the newly revised and expanded ebook, Reinventing Yourself Through Realignment. You can also check out blog articles and other information on the site. And make sure that you are sharing these podcasts so we can get authentic spirituality into the hands of those who are looking for it. And do all of the subscribe and like and comment and all those things that help us out on social media. We greatly appreciate your support. I want to thank all of you for tuning in. I love you guys. You're awesome. And I wish you the very best in your practices and your ability to cultivate results and experience great things in your life. Take care.